and welcome to Fraggle Talk, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast brought to you by toughpicks.com. This is the podcast where we cover Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock, episode by episode, along with the talented producers, performers, writers, and builders who help put it together. I'm your host, silly creature Joe Hennis. Today we're talking about episode 5, 4 Wembleys and a Birthday, in which nobody can agree on how to celebrate Wembley's birthday, so he splits into 4 identical, invisible versions of himself. Listen, the same thing could have happened to any of us. Our guest today is a puppeteer who performed the title character in the Jim Henson Company's Hi Opie from 2014 to 2017, and is now one of the leads in Back to the Rock, taking the reins of everyone's favorite indecisive Fraggle, Wembley. We are extremely proud to welcome Jordan Lockhart to the podcast. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Great to have you on here. I'm really excited to talk about Wembley and talk about this episode with you. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
So you're one of the newest puppeteers on this series and to the world of Fraggle Rock. Can you tell us how you got this gig?
Oh, man. Okay, I'll try to make this short, but I've got to give you the backstory here, like the backstory.
Great.
When I was, let's see, I guess it was about 15 years ago that the Fraggle Rock Rockin' box set came out. Do you remember those CDs?
I do, yeah. I still have mine, for sure.
Yeah, it was a beautiful release, and I quickly fell in love with it, and I listened to it all the time. Probably more than a grown adult should, but hey. And so
I'm sorry, how much should a grown adult listen to that? Because I think I'm right there with you.
So check it out. I'm whether it was a road trip or just hanging out at home in my room or working my delivery job, I always had that CD with me. I always had this little CD case, and I had an album for every mood, for every kind of weather. It was a thing, man. And Fraggle was always in there. Things would always change out, but Fraggle stayed, okay? And I really obsessed with Wembley. I always identified with him on the show, and I had myself convinced that if I worked hard enough at his voice and really tried to capture his spirit and practiced the songs and quoted his scenes, that I would be prepared when that project finally got out of development hell and when the wheels started turning and I started looking for performers. Now, I mean, the reality is that I probably would have ended up a supporting performer, making a shrub move in the background. But I refused to believe that. I was like, I don't know what it is. I have to be Wembley. So I just kept on practicing these songs. I kept on scrutinizing the character and trying to get inside of his head. And then 2020, I get an audition for what is to become Rock On. And Rock On. And that role ended up going to a wonderful performer who I love so much. And I couldn't help but feel like, as soon as I got the news that, it wasn't happening for me, it instantly turned into, well, okay, they asked me. You know what I mean? And I was just like, that's freaking awesome. They asked me. So in a way, it kind of did happen in a funny way. So I just went on living my life. And then they announced that the series was in development later that summer. And I got I guess Frankie had a scheduling conflict with Don Quixote. He was committed to Don Quixote. And so I ended up getting an email from Johnny telling me, hey, just so you know, we rewatched your audition and we'd love to offer you Wembley Fraggle. I'm sitting on the train. I'm headed home one evening on the train, and I get this email, and you should have seen me, dude. I was just like, oh. So somewhere there's security video of me going like this, oh, on the train. Obviously, I get home. My wife is extremely happy for me. She's over the moon. We're over the moon. And then just this flood of mixed emotions comes in because you realize what's just happened, that you've essentially managed to fool everybody into thinking that you can do this. And I'm pacing around my apartment like, you idiot. You look what you've done. You played and you played and you played, and now they actually gave you a legacy character, you stupid jerk. Wow. And then my wife had to talk me down like, dude, this is a opportunity for major life growth. Just chill out. God doesn't
That's
give you
incredible.
something
Yeah.
unless He's already ordained it. So
Wow. Yeah, you manifested this into happening. Like that's some long-term planning there.
yeah, it's. I still get chills talking about it.
I'm sure you do. Yeah. And it also seems like the Fraggle Rock production team did a bit of their own Wembling in finally getting around to giving you this role. Nothing against Frankie. We love Frankie Cordero as well. We're big fans of his, and he's a wonderful performer and a wonderful human being. But it's great to see that someone who really worked as hard as they did, and like I said, like you manifested this into happening from like long before the series was probably a glint in anyone's eyes. So well done. Good on you.
Well, yeah.
So
I give God
I'd
credit, man.
I'd love to know more about how you researched Wembley, because you mentioned those CDs, and I'm sure it was also difficult. You're looking at someone else's performance. Steve Whitmire, who did an amazing job on the original series, and then eventually you're probably also looking at Frankie's work in the Rock On miniseries. What else did you have to do, or how did you try to emulate who Wembley is leading up to production of this show?
Hmm. Well, it was awkward because, I know I said that I had all of those materials to look at, but everybody else in the team had, obviously Dave and Karen have a couple of decades on me, but even Johnny and Donna, they have about 10 years on me in getting to know their characters a little bit physically. And I didn't have that. I had only a couple of months. And so I did watch the Rock On series, and I got a sense of what Frankie was going for and how he interpreted the character. And then I rewatched interviews with Steve, because he does give some pretty good insight into who Wembley is. And from there, I had to make a conscious decision that, there's two roads. And I think every performer that inherits a character ends up standing there going, stroking their chin. Do I create an impression of the character, or do I take my original self and put him into the character and allow him to continue to evolve? And people who know me well know that I'm not really interested in doing carbon copy kind of, copy and performances.
Sure, yeah.
And so, and thankfully I had the support of Henson to obviously acknowledge the things that make Wembley who he is, the reasons we love him. Those things are perfect and they should not be adjusted, but they wanted me definitely to interpret him in my own way and to feel free and supported, and I mean, no disrespect by this to anyone, but I was not expecting that. I was expecting to be micromanaged, and it was a completely opposite experience. And it was just such a joy. And because of the trust that they gave me and the patience to make discoveries, we had incredible discoveries as we went along. And so I'm pleased with how it turned out. But obviously, like all performers, I sit there and I watch it and I go, okay, note to self, next season, we're gonna, tweak that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, as much as I want to hold all of these characters so near and dear to my heart, if you focus too much on keeping them the way they were or the way they are supposed to be, I'm using bunny quotes with my fingers right now. Yeah. You're going to end up with these static characters, and they're going to start to two-dimension backward a little bit because you're not allowing them to grow and to change. And I think that's one of the things that new performers like yourself can really bring to the table. I'm sure people like Dave and Karen can take Boober and Red and evolve them the way that they would naturally, but bringing in new blood and new voices, to really evolve these characters and evolve the character relationships is going to make for a more dynamic show in the long run. So I'm glad to hear that you're putting your own spin on stuff. Wembley seems like he would potentially be one of the more difficult of the Fraggle Five to perform. I'm specifically thinking about the way his eyes move, which I want to hear more about. And also the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, Wembley doesn't have like a crease in the back of his mouth like the other Fraggles. It's kind of like a rounded mouth that gives him a lot more
Yes.
flexibility. So I'd love to know more
Yes.
about how difficult or easy each of those things are, or how it kind of changes your own performance of the character.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I always, up until this point, I'd never worked a character with a flexible palate like that, and I'd always wanted to. So when I got Wembley, I was like, okay, let's do this. And I was in the mirror every day, just exploring what could be done with these expressions, and then designating an expression for a different emotion, et cetera, et cetera. There is a little rubber palette in there that allows you to pretty much do anything.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's beautifully built by Raleigh Cruson, who I love. And as for the eyes, that was a bit of a challenge. That took some time because it's a big, clunky lever. I mean, a big handle like this. And I really only have to manipulate it with my thumb and my index finger. But I think I wasn't expecting it to play such games with my head in the monitor. Because, as you know, if we look left on screen, he looks right.
Right.
And I'm balancing all of these things, but now I've got the eyes to think about, and I have to make sure that, okay, if I want him to look this way, but he's thinking this way, you know what I mean? I have,
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like something that, well, I can work on a monitor. There should be no problem, but no, it really messed me in the head for a little while there. But I just kept playing around with it, and now I think it's my favorite of the puppets. In the
That's
beginning,
great.
I was like,
Yeah.
I think I'll just use the original head, and then after a while, I just fell in love with the mech because it's so brilliant and quiet, which is wonderful in a scene when you're not hearing like, and yeah, sometimes it's a little bit weird with the pupils because here's a little behind the scenes story. With use, these mechanisms get a little bit finicky. And at some point, I did the full 360 degree, right?
Right.
And then the pupils landed, but they landed cross-eyed like this.
Oh no.
in the middle of a scene. And then every subsequent take, this continued to happen. And I was just like, oh boy. So not only did I have to I had all the usual puppety things to worry about in the scene, but I also had to make sure that I took my thumb off the lever just in time for them to settle right. Otherwise, they were just going to land like that. That was stressful, but also kind of funny because you're like, well, if this keeps happening, yell at the puppet because I'm doing my best.
Right. Yeah. That's actually something I've always wondered about that iMech is because eye focus is so important to these characters.
Yeah.
Do they are they supposed to like naturally land back in that first position, or do you have to make sure you time it right or set it right so that you're hitting the button at the right time to put them back
right
in?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. You let go and they just thunk right back to
nice.
center.
Yeah.
But yeah, every couple of blocks it would break down and we would have to get a tune up.
Right, of course. Just like any of us in our eyes. We just
Yeah.
you gotta go to the optometrist once a year, get a new prescription. Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk about this episode, 4 Wembleys and a birthday. So this episode starts with traveling Matt. We start with the postcard this time around. It is Matt's birthday. And it's only Matt's birthday because Fraggles get to choose when they celebrate their birthdays, which raises a lot of questions about Fraggle birth. Like, this is something that we've wondered, behind the scenes, and it's okay that there's no real answer. But,
Right.
Are Fraggles born? Are they hatched? Do they have a calendar where they're going to know what, like, 365 days earlier was their last birthday or whatever? This does not help solve any of those problems, but it does explain why they have birthdays without having to worry about those things. And so the Fraggles are talking about their birthday celebrations. Gobo wants to spend his next one in outer space. Red just had her birthday. There's still cake left over, and she's already ready to celebrate the next one. Boober has this great moment where he reminisces about his last birthday, which was just like doing his ironing and his laundry with the rest of his Fraggle friends who are all falling asleep. But Wembley hasn't had a birthday in a while, so we're going to celebrate Wembley's birthday. That's pretty exciting. And of course, part of your birthday is you have to decide what you want to do for your birthday. And Wembley, the classic Wembler, is going to have a little panic attack here. And he sets off a smoke bomb and then just screams and runs away. That seems like one of those moments where you would spin the eyes, maybe.
I wonder if I was having trouble that day.
I don't know. I wish I had paid more attention to when the eyes were spinning in this one. But Wembley has some good freak out moments and some good moments where I thought he would have freaked out and he was surprisingly calm, which we'll get to in a little bit. Yeah. We get a doozer moment coming up soon after. This is our classic song moment with the doozer march song from the original series. That was from the episode The Great Radish Famine. And we get this cool look at the doozer dome. There's tons of doozers all around singing, and they all have cool hairstyles under their helmets and stuff like that. Did you get to play some of the doozers on this series too?
Absolutely. Yeah, I loved playing the rotted doozers especially. I really dig the the control that you have to have over those little guys. Otherwise, it just completely breaks the illusion. You know, it requires such a detailed, nuanced performance. And yeah, man, I did many of those. In fact, I can't remember half of them, but I know I was in there a lot under the sets with everybody sweating and groaning, and you know.
Great, doing the doozer work. That's what it is. I've always been curious about, like, this goes for doozers and Fraggles alike, but like, do you have what you would consider like your signature? Like, look, I like the one with the orange hair, so like I'm gonna make sure that every time we're doing doozers, I want to be that guy and giving him a name and a personality or something. Or is it just like you're just toss something and you're going up on screen?
There was one doozer that I always looked for. I worked with him as much as I could. I don't remember what he looked like anymore, but there was one that I particularly enjoyed working with. The rest of the time, I would just take what was available. I would just be like, oh, I haven't used this guy before.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like with doozers, each one is different, and they all perform differently. Some are more flexible than others, and when you find one that you're comfortable with and it doesn't screw you over, you go looking for him again. And if he's gone, then you look for another one, and you fall in love with that one, or you say never again. God bless our friends in the creature shop.
Oh, you said it. Yeah. So the doozers are investigating these new vines that have popped up because of the new water that's coming through Fraggle Rock. It's starting to block their trams. And later on in this episode, we're going to see that inside of these vines is this new pink goo that's really sticky. And that's one of those things that's going to like carry us through the rest of the season, because that sticky goo is going to be really important to the doozers and to the Fraggles. We'll come back around to that one. Meanwhile, Wembley is still trying to figure out what to do for his birthday, and the Fraggles all seem to have other ideas for him. Gobo wants to sing him a song, Moki wants to do a meditation with him, Red wants to have a spinning contest, and Boober wants to monitor a slippery moss patch to make sure that no one slips on it. Which of these would you have chosen if those were your only options for your birthday?
Oh my goodness. Well, I love music, so I probably would have hung with Gobo.
That's a good option. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sings like a birthday song to the tune of the Fraggle Rock theme, which I liked.
Yes.
It makes you think that like canonically maybe Gobo has only ever written one song and he just changes the words every time.
And everyone is just like, "You are so brilliant."
Oh, this one again. Great, Gobo, you're a genius. Sure thing. There's a moment here where Wembley says hello to a Mr. Grizzard, which is a puppet that we saw in the original series. This was from the episode Gone But Not Forgotten. That is the episode that many people may remember as the one with Mudwell the Mud Bunny.
Who's also in our series.
Oh, great. So, because Mud Bunnies, I assume, are it's a race. There's probably multiples that have different names. I don't know.
So.
Yeah.
I assume so.
Yeah. And apparently, when they die, they are kind of reborn as these lizards. So this was maybe a former Mud Bunny. Who knows? Write your own fanfic there, folks, about who this guy is.
Send them in to Joe Ennis.
Yeah, don't send me that. I'm not going to read it.
His address is
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up there, Jordan. Wembley, he's such a people pleaser or Fraggle pleaser, and he's going between each of the different Fraggles to celebrate his birthday with them. There's this great shot where he's running like in fast motion between each of them. I was curious how you did that.
Um,
If you remember
yeah.
how you did that. If you don't, we can cut that
Try,
out.
yeah, I'm trying to think back to that day. I know we just kind of. Oh my gosh, give me a second.
I know, pandemic brain.
I think it was just a series of setups. It was, we shot all of the Boober stuff, we shot all of the Moki stuff, all of the Gobo stuff, and then we had that sequence in between where he's running back and forth, and I think we did it at normal speed, and they just sped it up, and I was just
Interesting.
on a wheelie stool.
So it looked like, if I'm not mistaken, then the other four Fraggles are probably like moving in slow motion, so that you could, because they look like they're moving like at a normal speed, and Wembley's the one who's zipping between all of them.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about. You're
Hmm.
talking about that big wide shot.
Yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
yes,
okay. That
okay.
was not as descriptive as it probably should have been.
Yeah, that was a series of different puppets. Yeah, so we did, like I said, we did all the Gobo stuff, the Moki stuff, and then they just put it all together.
Sure,
In
yeah.
fact, sometimes it was me and Johnny doing two Wembleys in a shot, and then we'd
Hmm.
switch over and do the other two Wembleys. So it's very possible that Johnny was there in
Right.
that big wide shot with me, running over here while I was running over here, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then we switched up puppets, and that was Wembley number 3 and 4, let's say, and then the effects guys put it all together.
So that
Thanks for
was
reminding me of that.
sure, yeah. Okay, so that's immediately after when Wembley does split into four Wembleys, and
Yeah.
now yeah. So now this is the other thing I'm genuinely curious about. So did you have four Wembley puppets? Did you have like two and two, and you're just matting them on top of each other? Um, like when there
So
were
we
four
had
Wembleys on screen, how did that work?
Yeah, so we had 3 Wembley puppets to work with. No, I'm sorry, we had 4. We had 2 with IMAX, which are brand new. We had 1 without an IMAX, and we had the swim puppet, which is a
Mm,
really old one that I
yeah,
think was the one that used to sit armatured at the New York shop, if I'm not
cool.
mistaken. I could be wrong. And yeah, that's what we did. So like Johnny and I would both pop into, say, if Wembley 1 and 2 were the 2 IMAC puppets, we'd get all of those scenes done, and then we'd switch over to the swim and the non-IMAC one, and we'd shoot all of those. And it was incredible to have him there because that would have been a lot to do on my own. And when it's close-ups, it is all me
Right.
doing
Yes,
each
that makes
shade,
sense.
So yeah, and of course we had our wonderful puppeteers, Kanya Chan and Andy Hayward, there assisting us in those scenes and helping to keep them alive. And it's so strange to see Wembley with all of his limbs going in this fluid way uh, because our assistants were there. Because most of the time, it's one performer doing the hands, and they're all just kind of simple movements like this and like this. But to see 4 Wembleys and everything's moving and he's so alive to me, bloody beautiful.
It is. And what's great too is I can't tell when I look at those shots where all four Wembleys are there. I can't tell which one you are in because they're all moving so fluid. Like you said, they're fluid movements.
Mm-hmm.
They are like the lip sync is perfect. I don't know if you're ADRing each of these or if you're throwing your voice or whatever it is, but it really is like incredible. And I can't tell if there are four puppets on screen or if you did four separate Wembleys and they matted them together and layered the audio.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I like
Well done.
wonderful
Well
news.
done to you. Well done to the editors. Well done to whoever else is in that scene. I am impressed.
Thanks, man.
Um,
That was
we
by the way,
yeah.
that scene in the cave of recombobulation, that was my very first day on Fraggle
Oh,
Rock.
really?
I had done 2 weeks of Doc and Sprockets with Johnny and Karen, And then all the Fraggle performers flew in, and we started day 1, week 3, in the Cave of Recombobulation. And that was me and Johnny and Andy and Kanya. And I was just like, all right, they're testing me. I'm a rise to this. Yeah, that was intense, man. But it was so much fun. We laughed really hard.
Oh, that's great. That's some good stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get to the Cave of Recombobulation in a second, but speaking of Doc and Sprocket, they have a little through line in this episode as well, where Doc is trying to create a viral video to promote her micro plastic science stuff, and she decides that it's not getting any attention, so she needs to do what everyone else on the internet does and do like a big flashy video that has lots of graphics and a dance break, and she's basically just shouting science, science, science into the screen. There's no actual information of this. It's actually, I will say, as someone who runs a website, it is very true that sometimes you want to do something that has content that people might see and appreciate, and sometimes you're like, we just need to do something that's going to get the hits, and it's not as creatively satisfying, but it gets eyeballs. So you, what did you do with the Doc and Sprocket sequences? What was your contribution there?
I play Sprocket's tail.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know.
So
I would have just assumed it was Karen. Yeah. Wow. Because Karen's still doing the right hand for Sprocket, right?
Yes. Yeah, Karen's the right hand, or both hands, I believe, and Johnny is the head, and I'm the tail, following them around in the back. And it's an interesting performance. I've never done anything like that, actually. That's really, really cool stuff. And now that we use, now that they're using a jib crane, we get to compose all these shots where he's running across the room here and there and there and there. And we cheat, you just have the tail going, and then it goes down, camera goes over to the desk, and boom, he pops up. And I love stuff like that, because you really do buy into it. And it's the stupidly simplest, illusion there is.
That's terrific. Well, first of all, like, amazing that, if you didn't have Wembley, that your claim to fame would be, I play the dog's tail. And people would be like, wow, you get to be the tail. That's awesome. It's nice work if you can get it, I guess.
I remember Hallie one day was like, I was going to my trailer, and she was like, Jordan, you're crushing it. And I was like, what are you talking about? Thank you.
But it's true, though, because I've said this on this podcast. I say it in real life all the time, that Sprocket is not a puppet. Sprocket is a real dog, because Sprocket moves so naturally, and a big part of that is, obviously because of all the incredibly talented performers underneath him, but also like just what you're talking about with this collaboration between the three of you, that like it just takes a village to really bring him to life, and it's so successful. So
Isn't
well
Johnny
done.
incredible?
Love Sprocket. He's the best. He's so.
I wish
he's
you
so
could have
good
been
at
there,
his
Joe.
job.
I wish you could have been there on day 1 when he first put Sprocket on and they called action. It was so emotional, because he is the biggest Fraggle fan on the planet, and to see him bring Sprocket to life on that first day so perfectly, without blemish, I'm telling you, man, it was like, no, too early to cry, just get it together, man.
Right.
It was really, really hypnotic, man. Like you said, that dog is real. He
Absolutely.
exists.
Yeah.
I don't know who these people are.
Right. You were just watching the dog. Yeah. We interrupt this podcast for a special postcard from our uncle traveling John Tartaglia and a Fraggle Fast Fact.
Today's Fraggle Fast Fact is recasting legacy characters with new performers. I can tell you that is something we took so incredibly seriously with Back to the Rock. In my case, I've been playing Gobo for 9 years, and taking Gobo on was the most exciting and daunting thing in the world, because Jerry Nelson was a genius, and he was one of my heroes. And so to play this character that he originated is it's thrilling and it's terrifying, because you want to do it right, and you want to do it in respect to what everyone knows and loves about the character, but you have to find a way to kind of make it your own, you know. And when it came to recasting a lot of the other characters on the show, all of us, the producers and Dave Goles and Karen Prell, we all listened to and watched everyone's auditions and really tried to look for who had the spirit of the character, who had the soul of the character, who understood the comedy of the character. Because it's not just about a voice. It's really about finding who embodies the character the best. And I'm really thrilled with how all of us fans, all of you listening, reacted to the recasting of some of these characters, because I can promise you it was done with so much love and so much respect to who came before. And it's exciting to see the new energies brought to these characters, and we're glad you love them as much as we do. That's your Fraggle Fast Fact, and now back to the podcast.
Back to Wembley, he is going to, they, because there's now 4 Wembleys, are going to see the trash heap. There's a great moment where I guess they're hungry, so they're carrying radishes, and they're walking across the Gorg's garden, and Junior Gorg sees 4 floating radishes. So I don't know how that the rules of this world work, where Wembley cannot be seen or heard, but he can still pick things up, but I'm not gonna challenge that one. We'll leave that be.
I never questioned it either.
Right. We'll move on. The trash heap, who sees all, can see the Wembleys, and she tells them to go to the cave of recombobulation, which we mentioned earlier. When Wembley goes, I love the moment where he is going into the cave and he sees his reflection in a rock and panics that there's even more of them now. I think in another, I know, right? And I feel like in another world he would have continued to multiply, and eventually we would have had like 80 different Wembleys all over Fraggle Rock. But maybe the budget could only sustain 4 of them.
I love that image.
Yes, Wembleys everywhere.
I like that.
And not one of them can make a decision.
What it suggests for me, but I like the image.
Right. I know. Are you tired already just thinking about it? I wanted to mention, I forgot to say this earlier, like after Wembley's initial panic about noticing that there's 4 of them, like he's surprisingly like kind of cool with it, of just like, you know, he likes hanging out with himself, and like they're like 4 buddies. Like, yeah. I love the tone behind that. Because this episode could have just been like a lot of screaming, you know,
right?
Like a lot of panic, and it's not. Like it's, you know, it's like, well, we have something we got to figure out now. Like it's another weird magical thing in Fraggle Rock. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of the things I really didn't want to do with the character. I just didn't want him to be a crazy screamer, you know, and so I looked for every opportunity to be emotional, not in that way, but to be, have a little bit more depth. And it worked out I think it worked out nice. There's still things that I want to work on going forward there, but I feel good about the balance that was brought to the freaking out and then, you know, being a person with dimension.
Right. Yes. No, it's definitely coming out. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of very easy directions you could have gone that would have been effective in their own way. But instead, like, we get to know Wembley more as a character and more of like what he's thinking and what he wants and needs, as opposed to just like, oh no, there's a problem, let's react to it. Yeah. Definitely like building on, you know, what else we want to see from this character. So, you know, season 2, hopefully more of that. So I like also, he says, well, while they're in the cave of recombobulation, he says, I'm going to miss all of you. And then another one says, all of me, all of us.
I think it's all of us.
I think it's all of I.
All of I. Yeah.
That's good stuff. Because like even Wembley, you know, here basically by himself with several other Wembleys, cannot decide on how to say goodbye. Like he's still Wembling even at this moment.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to the trash heap's suggestion, they all run at each other from different corners, and they run right through each other, which again must have been such a weird. I mean, you said that was day one with Wembley. Like, that's such a weird thing to do on your first day.
You know, that was both the most beautiful set that I've ever worked on. Okay, Great Hall aside, the Cave of Recombobulation was the most beautiful set I've worked on, and also the most physically awkward, because we had these little slats in the floor that were extremely narrow, and the foam would brush up against our arms as we were running across.
Yeah.
Both shaking the set and rubbing off onto the character. So there'd be this trail of popcorn. And yeah, that was a little weird navigating that. And by the end of the day, our skin was all red and raw from grinding against the foam all day. But it looked so beautiful when the effects guys all put it together. I was like, oh, okay, yes. It does look smooth.
Right. Yeah, because I'm sure from your perspective, it's like I'm literally just running across the stage like 90
Well, yeah,
times.
I thought, I thought I was ruining it. I really thought that it was going to look really bad because it was just so physically strange to be colliding with each other like that. You know, one would have to pass the center point and move along before the other one came, or we'd actually slam into each other.
Oh, sure. Oh, so wait, so you filmed multiple of Wembleys at the same time for that shot?
Yeah, so that's another example of me and Johnny starting on opposite ends of the set and then going and crossing each other, and then we'd turn over and do it again with the other guys. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know why I just assumed it was 4 different shots, but you're right, you could do it in 2.
Yeah, we did it in close-ups. I did all 4 in close-ups, but I think they used all the wide stuff because it's such a gorgeous set and it's a funny image. The gag is
for sure, it's terrific. Yeah, but of course it doesn't work. Which is also like I love the fact that usually when the trash heap is like, well, you got to do this thing, it's like, all right, well, it's weird and it's magic. I don't understand it, but it doesn't seem to work. And Wembley finds himself magically themselves back at the Great Hall, and you get your next song, which is "That's Not What I Want," and that's an original for this series. And you get to do like a 4-part harmony with yourself.
Yes. yeah, I do.
So how was that? How was what was the process for you of like learning a new song and recording it and all that?
Well, this was another first for me, man. I'd only have one recording session on another show almost a decade ago, and in fact, that was Opie. So I was very nervous going in, and I hadn't really processed everything until I walked into the recording studio and saw Karen recording "There's a Lot I Want to Know," and then I was like, oh, okay, so this is happening. Okay, that's cool. Sweat, heart pounding. But we had an amazing vocal coach who, in those early days, kind of helped me get a hold on the harmonies and to trust myself. You know what I mean? And once I got into the studio, I don't know what came over me, but like I feel like I was possessed by Wembley from head to toe, like all of me. And we just had so much fun, and we experimented with ideas, and in the end, I think I kind of surprised myself a little bit there. I was like, okay, I guess I can sing. I'm just not a singer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have enough to pull off characters. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here. I don't really know what to say. Except
that's okay. I mean, I've heard similar things from other puppeteers where they're like, look, you put a puppet on my hands and it sounds great. You put me in front of a microphone and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm not a Broadway guy, you know?
Yeah. There's a weird freeing feeling in front of a microphone. I think once you, it also helps that the booth is to my left, so I cannot see them while I'm recording. That helps too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
the anonymity of performing kind of you lose a few of your inhibitions there.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful song, and getting a chance to do 4 versions of Wembley and bring different emotions to each one. One is indeed more panicky than another one. It might be actually a little bit more passive, and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was fun.
Yeah, and again, like what a challenge. I mean, to have to do not just a solo song. It'd be one thing to just do a solo song, but those tight harmonies, like you could really hear how much work you put into that one.
Yeah.
So during the course of the song, Wembley is really standing up for himself. He knows what he wants, and more importantly, what he does not want, and that's really the magic that is going to recombobulate him and bring him back into one Fraggle. And of course, I have all these sci-fi metaphysical questions about, like, so does he retain the memories of all 4 Fraggles, or is it just one of them and 3 of them just kind of like dissipate? I don't know. I'll leave that up to the viewer to decide. And there's a great puppetry moment here where he is leaving the cave and he's cutting through the Gorg's garden, and Junior Gorg is in this full suit of armor chasing him. And it's kind of a scary moment. Like, it's one shot where it's like Wembley is running and Junior, kind of passes him, like to cut him off. And then Wembley jumps, like we see his whole body. He jumps and climbs into the cave. Was that like a green screen Bunraku type style of puppetry, or was that like a little bit of tastefully used CGI there?
So I got it was pretty sweet, man. It was blue screen. We had this blue screen cube. In fact, it was like a gigantic cube tent in stage 3, and that's where we would do all of the blue screen shooting, any sequences that required it. And what I got in that sequence was an overlay of the Gorg's garden, which they were shooting live outside the tent.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was me and Ben DeRoche and Dan Garza working together, like in the moment, doing that together. And the effects guys were just overlaying it on the monitor so we could get our eye lines right and the timing, because obviously I've got to get to the hole at a certain mark. So that Junior can come and be like, that was really cool. It's so cool to get a really good sense of what it's going to look like in the final product. And I just like to say, anytime I see Junior on screen, I just smile. Is he not the greatest? He not the greatest?
Adorable. I love him. I mean, look,
especially in the armor. Oh my goodness,
it's so good. I mean, I hope someone from some action figure toy company is paying attention, because number one, I want a Junior Gorg action figure, but Junior in the armor.
Yeah, with the sword.
With the sword.
Wait, did he have a sword or a club?
Oh, good question. I don't have the episode in front of me, but I want to say sword because of the armor, but you're right, he might have his normal club.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. But Junior, I mean, look, my first reaction at seeing him in the promos before the show started was like, well, they changed him. I don't like change. I don't like that he looks different, but he's got this softness to him and this tenderness that's so much friendlier, and it fits the character so well that we're not,
Dude, 100%.
Yeah, we're not afraid of him like the Fraggles are. And already, like, just looking at him, and in one episode, you get that, like, there's all these layers to this character. And that also, of course, has so much to do with Dan Garza and Ben DeRoche playing that character and doing it so well.
Yeah, dude, Ben busted his butt in that suit, and the guy's my hero, okay? Like, I don't have heroes, really. I don't have actual heroes, but that guy is. And Dan brought so much of himself to Junior. Like, everything that you just mentioned that you love, that's Dan Garza. It's such a massive, massive heart, and it's just like oozing all the time with love and compassion, and he just threw it all into the character. And this is the first time Junior's ever made me cry, was on this series.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, like, I love Richard's performances, I love his characters, and I have absolutely zero shame in saying this. I think Dan's is superior. That's just my personal opinion, because there's, like, it's just so raw. It really is. Like, the heart's right there on his sleeve from episode 1.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow,
Anyhow,
send a hate mail to Jordan Lockhart, P.O. Box.
so the Fraggle Five are all they all realize now that they've been trying to throw 4 different parties for Wembley, which is like it's like they just did the worst thing possible for a Wembler, like their pal Wembley. Which I also like that they acknowledge this because like it was such an unkind thing to do to like put those decisions in front of him and to say like, oh, we didn't realize that's what we were doing. Like I feel like that was important. Like it's literally in his name that he's a Wembler, you know?
Yep.
But what I also love is they're talking about this, but they don't realize that Wembley has been sitting right next to them the whole time.
Yeah.
He's a very quiet sitter. Yeah.
Just a very quiet sitter. Yeah.
Poor
guy, man. It never ends.
It really doesn't. And especially because he then tries to tell them like, oh, well, all this stuff happens. You know, I couldn't decide. I split into four Fraggles. You couldn't see me. I had to go to the cave of recombobulation, blah, 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 blah. And I can't really tell if they believe him or not. I would say probably not.
My sense is that they don't at all.
Right. Yeah. Of all the things they've seen and done at Fraggle Rock, like they still don't. Okay, that's fine. And so Wembley, of course, now has decided what he wants to do for his birthday, which is he just wants to hang out with his friends. And honestly, same. That's what I like doing for my birthday. What about you? What do you do for your birthday, Jordan? What's your big thing?
I'm a big believer in that famous gym quote, simple is good. Honestly, friends and food. That's a really good time for me. I don't really need anything else. So
Great.
That's just one of many ways that I relate to the little guy.
I was just going to say, that sounds exactly like what Wembley wants to do, friends and food. He got his radishes earlier, and now he just wants to hang out with his friends. I love it. Happy birthday, Wembley. Well, that's about it for this episode. Do you have any other memories of this one that you want to share or anything about the series as a whole?
I would just like to say that when I was 10 years old, sitting on my bed reading Jim Henson, The Works, and projecting all of my hopes and dreams onto these pictures, that boy was rewarded those 5 months in Calgary because as I got older and gained more experience in the business, I came to realize that if I ever get to work closely with the Jim Henson Company, it's probably going to be a very robotic, corporatized experience, and it's not going to be like what you thought it was going to be. And working on Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock, Joe, was everything I had hoped it would be at 10 years old. I'm telling you, I walked away from that production having worked with Jim Henson himself.
Wow.
What?
That's incredible.
So,
man.
Yeah, but that says everything of the team that we had. It says a lot about Hallie and her sense of magic and fun and her motherly way of taking good care of us all. And it's Johnny of knowing how to recognize Jim's spirit and how to distribute that among a team and keep everyone supported and lifted up and making it clear that toxicity and egos are not welcome in our family. And just the specific talent that they picked for this show, man. Oh my goodness. See, I'm getting emotional just talking about it. I've never had a family like this in my work. It's always been you're there for a couple of months or weeks and then you're gone and nobody could be bothered. But we're still in love with each other and are deeply affected by the experience we had in Calgary. And I just want to thank Johnny and Hallie and Rita and everyone so much for being so faithful to Jim. And yeah, I mean, that just means the world to me that they actually care. That's it, man, because not everyone does, you know. Time goes by and things change, but somehow he's still around, and his convictions, his spirit, his sense of humor. It's still perfectly preserved, and I don't understand, but I am very grateful.
Well, we are very grateful for you and for the fantastic performance that you did as Wembley, and we're just keeping our fingers crossed that we're going to get more of it, because now we've been teased with a terrific season of Back to the Rock, and some great performer returns and recasts as yourself. That just everyone is just doing a phenomenal job.
I'm very, very hopeful for season 2. We all are.
Yes.
This is a meaningful show. I believe it's anointed. It's coming back.
Great.
It's not if.
Right,
It's not if. It's when.
You heard it here first, folks. Season 2, any day now. Well, Jordan Lockhart, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being such a terrific Wembley, and really bringing the character to life and doing such a phenomenal job with him and with the show as a whole.
Thanks,
and
Joe.
For all of you folks listening, that brings us to the end of another Fraggle Talk podcast, but stay tuned as Tough Pig's own Beth Cook talks more about the themes of this episode in our Dive Deeper segment coming up right now.
Welcome to Dig Deeper. This is Beth Cook, and I am joined once again by executive producer and president of television at the Jim Henson Company, Hallie Stanford. Oh, wow. This episode, Wembley, 4 Wembleys and a birthday.
Yes. Birthdays. That's a big deal with kids. You know what I mean? And it's a big deal, for parents as well. Oh my gosh. The orchestrators of the birthday parties. So here you have, they're not parents, but here you have 4 friends who are acting like different parents, throwing all kinds of parties. They think they know exactly what Wembley wants. And, they even sing a song about it. I know what Wembley wants. He just wants to spin and spin and spin and spin. And Wembley, who is a Wembler, doesn't really know what he wants at first and feels torn. And we felt like this was a really important story for Wembley. And certainly I think the kids who have a hard time transitioning, children who wemble. I think every child wembles, but there are some kids that definitely get more frozen in decisions and fear and advocating for themselves than those that do. So especially when it comes to adults deciding things for them and advocating for themselves. So, or friends picking, I can imagine for me, if I had to decide between 3 different friends inviting me over for a play date, I would go hide under my bed. So here you see Wembley on his most important day, not knowing what to do. And so we do a visual representation, again, of what the deeper issue is. He splits into 4 different Wembleys and has to go around. Is it 4? Wait.
Yes.
Oh my God. I looked at your face. I'm like, wait, did I say it wrong? Am I not remembering my own show?
No, it's perfect.
And he has to go around and find a way to integrate himself again and find his voice and advocate for himself. This is his journey in this season. As you can see, we have a couple of episodes like this for Wembley. A little personal story is that I have a child that wembles and gets really stuck in decisions. So I shared a story about his birthday where the candles were lit and everybody sang happy birthday. And they just sat there and he didn't know what to wish for. And it was the longest minute of my life. And then his friend leaned over and whispered, maybe you could just wish for more wishes. And they went, yeah. And then he blew them out. And so the birthday party, there's a lot of pressure on a kid. So that is why we chose a birthday episode for Wembley versus something different, that he's going to wemble and break hearts. So that was key as well. That is a very stressful and glorious and a lot of pressure day. So everybody needs to check in with that kid and see, what do they want to do? What do they feel like doing? What will make them happy? And he says it, I'd just be happy hanging out with all of you. And also maybe a little magic too. Wembley likes magic. So that's what that episode's about. And I love that he has to talk to himself, his different sides, come together, and in that gorgeous room with the crystals, and then come back to himself and come back to his friends.
Yeah. I really appreciated that even though Marjorie was able to give him the information that he needed about, here's the cave of recombobulation, this is the magic spell you have to say in order to get back together, he tried it and it didn't work until he had figured out the lesson that he needed to learn and figured out exactly what it is that he wanted.
And that's a great lesson for kids, right? I mean, it's a hard lesson. It's hard to sit in being uncomfortable. I think that, as parents, we want to make those uncomfortable feelings go away, come in with the solutions, just fix it. But at the end of the day, kids have to go into their own cave of recombobulation and come out the way that they need to come out. And we're just there to gently guide them like the trash heap. I feel like I'm the trash heap. People say, which Fraggle do you identify with? And I say, no, I don't identify with them. I identify with the trash heap. And Doc.
Fraggle Talk, the unofficial Fraggle Rock podcast, is brought to you by toughpigs.com. Produced, written, and hosted by Joe Hennis. Fraggle Fast Fact segment presented by special guest John Tartaglia. Dig Deeper segment hosted by Beth Cook with special guest Hallie Stanford. Fraggle Talk art by Dave Haltine Jr. The Fraggle Rock mark and logo, characters, and elements are trademarks of the Jim Henson Company, all rights reserved. Fraggle Rock theme song, written by Philip Balsam and Dennis Lee, is used with permission. Special thanks to the Jim Henson Company, Apple TV Plus, and the entire Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock family. For more from Tough Pigs, please find us at Tough Pigs on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time down at Fraggle Talk.